Alright, what's going on everyone? In this video I'm going to show you how to upgrade the Gruul Stompy Challenger deck. All prices in this video will be in US dollars, and I know that isn't relevant to everyone, but the goal is to not spend more than the retail price of the deck, which is typically around $25 to $30. So hopefully that gives you an idea of how much we're looking to spend with this upgrade. So Gruul Stompy, this is actually pretty close to a top tier meta deck in standard at the moment. It's called Teamer Midrange. Technically, this deck splashes blue for counter spells, but besides that, we actually have a significant portion of the deck. There is just one major problem, and that's Goldspan Dragon. Goldspan Dragon is basically played in every iteration of Gruul Stompy imaginable, and this currently costs $30 each, which is about the price of this entire deck, and we need to buy 3 of them, right? So we basically need to buy this deck 3 more times just for 3 copies of Goldspan Dragon. So sadly that is out of our budget, but despite that I think we can get pretty close to the top tier deck that this is built after. So let's get started and see where we end up. So first off, we need to take out the 2 twin shot snipers for 2 Esika's Chariot. These snipers are literally never played, no point in having it in the deck at all. And Esika's Chariot is an amazing beat stick for a Stompy deck. Essentially it produces 8 power for 4 mana because it's a 4/4 and makes 2/2/2 tokens. Plus when you attack with it you get to duplicate a token. Not only can it duplicate its own cat tokens, but it can also copy one of the many wolf tokens that we can create with this deck. So it's pretty fantastic, and the sniper just isn't. It's not fantastic, it's pretty bad. Next, we need to take out an Abrade for a 3rd Esika's Chariot. So Abrade is great, but a problem this deck has is it's overloaded with spells. It's got too many burn spells and too many protection spells to the point where it sometimes just has these awkward draws where you don't have anything to do because you have burn spells but nothing to burn, or protection spells with nothing to protect. So we're just going to fix this ratio by taking out one of the Abrades and getting another threat in the deck to make this a little bit more balanced. Similarly, I want to take out Snakeskin Veil for an Atsushi, the Blazing Sky. Once again, the Veil is fantastic. Perfectly happy to continue playing 3 of them in the deck. We just need to reduce the number of spells, and this helps with that. Atsushi, 4 mana, 4/4, Flying Trample Dragon. When it dies, we can either reveal 2 cards off the top of our library and cast them, or actually play them so we can play lands, or it gives us a pile of treasure, which is great because this deck is looking to sort of ramp and use treasures with Magda to sacrifice to find dragons, typically Goldspan Dragon. So this is a decent threat and it works pretty well with what we're doing with this deck. Next, I want to take out 2 Ulvenwald Oddities for 2 Moonveil Regents. This deck usually plays 2 to 4 Regents, so in theory, instead of playing Atsushi, we could put 3 of these in and that would actually be fine. Either is fine really, but this dragon will give us a constant source of card draw. Whenever you cast something, you can discard your hand and draw cards equal to the number of colors of the spell. Now obviously, this is absolutely terrible in the early game or when you have lots of cards in hand, but in the late game, once you're out of cards, every single time you play something, you just discard your hand, which is 0 cards, and you draw another card. And if you can play that, you can discard your hand of 0 cards to draw another card, right? So basically, you can just chain stuff off the top of your deck once you're empty-handed, and this is a proactive, go at your opponent's throat type of deck. So in the late game, you do tend to go empty-handed, and Moonveil Regents are great. Also deal some damage when it dies. No complaints about that. And as for the Ulvenwald Oddity, it's honestly fine. Like, I have no complaints about it. But the Regent is more common. It's an evasive threat, and it gives us tons of card draw late game, and also it's a dragon that we can find with Magda. Next, we need to take out 2 Briarbridge Trackers for 2 Reckless Stormseekers. While the tracker is really good, it's not often played in this specific deck. It's more of a mono green aggro and mono green stompy type of card. In my opinion, it's totally fine, but the Stormseeker is more common. It just makes your deck faster by giving everything you play haste. Everything you play, you target it with the Stormseeker, give it haste, and it just speeds up the entire deck by a turn. So that's the idea. Also works really well with Helana and Elena, because you can pump up Helana and Elena with Reckless Stormseeker first, and then distribute the counters, and now there's an extra counter, right? Which is pretty good. Like a turn 3 Reckless Stormseeker, if you play Helana and Elena turn 4, you can target Helana and Elena first, give it haste, so it has 3 power haste. Then you can put those counters on the Stormseeker, which is 3 of them, so you're attacking for 8 on turn 4, right? That's the idea. So actually pretty good. I also want to take out the other 2 Briar Bridge trackers for 2 prosperous innkeepers, and I know this isn't very exciting because it's not a big stompy creature. We're taking out a big stompy creature for this kind of smaller creature, but it's important for this deck because it's another ramp creature. It gives us a treasure when it enters, and that ramp, that treasure, is another way to activate Magda. So this gives us 10 total ramp opportunities with this deck. We have 4 Sentinels, 4 Magdas, and now 2 Innkeepers. This is pretty typical for this deck. I would say most, like 90% of decks play this exact package. Gives us a ton of ramp, gives us multiple opportunities to make treasure, which in turn allows us to get, some big dragons out. Also just ramps us into, the Huntmaster and stuff, our big green creatures. So Innkeeper's great, Briarbridge Tracker also great, but Prosperous Innkeeper just gives us more opportunities to ramp into that big stuff faster. And I would consider this optional, but I see no reason not to take out a Mountain for a Sakenzin Crucible of Defiance. You could add more, you could potentially play 2, 3, 4 of these, I guess, but they're legendary, so they get more and more dangerous the more you add, because you can't have more than one in play. So if you draw 2 of them, like say your opening hand has 2 of these, well, that could make your mana really awkward, right? But 1 doesn't hurt. If you have 1, you never have to worry about the legend rule, and it's a potential extra spell if you're flooded. So being able to discard it, get a couple tokens, and by the way, the tokens have haste. That's actually very relevant. It could sometimes win a game, so definitely not bad. It's optional, I guess. You don't absolutely need it, but I'm including it in my upgrade because these are only a couple dollars each, and no reason not to. Moving on to the sideboard, we have a few things we need to change. First off, we need to take out 2 Kappa Tech Wreckers for 2 Outland Liberators. Both of these are creatures that can remove artifacts and enchantments, but the Ninja Turtle is really awkward and unreliable because you have to attack and hit the opponent, and there's no guarantee that will work. So if there's an absolutely critical artifact or enchantment you need to remove, you might not be able to get through with the turtle. The Liberator is much cleaner, much more reliable, and if it flips, it can actually remove something every single time it attacks. Not to mention it's a 2 mana 3/3, so this is just much better against artifact and enchantment decks. We also need to take out the 2 Twin Shot Snipers and the sideboard for 2 Tangle Traps. I have no clue why the snipers are in the sideboard at all. They're kind of terrible. Definitely don't want them. Tangle Trap is just a versatile removal spell. It can kill big flyers or blow up artifacts, so that could be useful in a variety of matchups, which is very nice for a sideboard card. And that's basically it for this deck. However, there are a ton of non-budget upgrades you can make, so let's go over those. First off, you can take out the Huntmasters for Goldspan Dragons, of course. This would cost $60, so definitely out of our budget, but technically Goldspan Dragon is the more popular choice. That's what this deck typically plays. It can be searched for Magda. It can provide treasures, so Magda can find even more dragons, right? Like Goldspan Dragons make treasures. Magda can sacrifice those treasures to find more Goldspan Dragons that produce more treasures, and so on and so forth. But they're expensive, unfortunately. You can also improve the mana base with Pathways and Den of the Bugbear. The dens are a little expensive, so understandable if you don't want to spend money on those, but the Pathways are surprisingly cheap. You can pick up a few of these if you want. Just take out forests and mountains in equal quantities. So for example, if you buy 2, take out 1 forest, 1 mountain. If you buy 4, take out 2 of each, so on and so forth. The dens can go into place of mountains, and having 1, at least 1 would be fantastic, maybe 2. But of course, they're like $10 each, so kind of expensive. Also, this deck has Tovolar in the sideboard. Currently, it's pretty okay, but it's much more common to see Toski in this slot. It's perfect against control decks, right? Because that's what you want to bring this in. You want to bring this in against control decks, and it's perfect because it can't be countered, it's indestructible, and then it just draws you tons of cards. And these cards are meant to draw you cards against control decks that are blowing up your board. Toski just does it a lot better. Most decks play 1 or 2 copies in the sideboard. Most play 1, some play 2, but these currently cost around $12 each, so just out of our budget. But if you happen to own any, swapping out a Tovolar for a Toski, definitely recommended. And yeah, that's it guys. What we have now should be much stronger in the current meta. We shouldn't get flooded with spells quite as often, which is great. We should get those big threats out faster than before, and since many of them have flying, we should be able to beat down more consistently without worrying about pesky blockers. So there you go, guys. Be sure to check the description below. I will leave links to the final deck list. I'll also leave some links to some metagame tracking websites if you want to see the most up-to-date deck lists. Deck lists are always changing, so you can see what's going on at the time you're watching this. But in the meantime, guys, thanks for watching. I hope this video was helpful, and I will see you in the next one.